What's up everybody, this is Master and Gamer. Overwatch Season 4 is almost upon us, so in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at what to expect in the upcoming season, from the start date to the new hero, BlizzCon, and other major content coming in this season. So let's go ahead and jump right on in, starting first and foremost with the start date, which will be Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, which is actually a bit earlier than we would normally expect the start of the season to be, seeing as Season 3 is shorter than your average season. Normally, a season runs for 9 weeks, but this season, for whatever reason, is only 8, which means August 11th is the date to look at. If you haven't finished your Battle Pass yet, you have until this date to get it done, but what exactly can we expect to arrive on said August 11th? Well, first and foremost, the biggest thing that I think most people watching this are going to be excited for with Season 4 is, of course, the brand new hero, who at this point we know with utter certainty is going to be D.Mon. Yes, ever since the first teasers pointing toward her back in February during the Overwatch Spotlight event, there have been numerous additional indicators and references pointing toward her being the very next hero. And indeed, at this point, it is quite safe to say she's who we can expect. I've already done a whole video delving super in depth with D.Mon, breaking down all the teasers and information we have on her so far, speculating what sort of kit and abilities she might have, and even delving into some leaked information as well. So I do strongly recommend you check that video out after watching this one. I will have it linked in the cards on screen. But in short, D.Mon is the safe expectation for the Season 4 hero. She's almost certainly going to be a tank hero based on her size, if nothing else, and I for one am quite looking forward to her. Now, some extra little info that I didn't actually cover in my dedicated D.Mon video is a possible unintentional leak on the Busan mecha base map, where we see not only all the stuff happening to D.Mon's mech, but also reflections on the map itself seem to show the presence of a null sector ship flying outside the mecha base. Curiously, these only appear in the reflections of things like windows and shiny surfaces, and clearly show the large open area of the main base hangar with something hovering outside. That something is definitely not there in actuality, but based on the look of it here, it does strongly resemble the null sector ships which we saw back during the invasion PvE missions. And considering what we know about the story detail of Talon working with the Junkers and ultimately trying to recover a downed null sector ship that the Junkers have acquired, it seems quite likely that this is tied into that whole story arc. Perhaps Talon ends up acquiring the null sector ship, and as they're flying it back to Rialto or wherever they're sending it, it just so happens to fly over Busan, and that's likely how D.Mon is going to end up getting involved with the current ongoing story. Just a bit of speculation there. I do find this quite interesting, and I'm very curious to see how it all ends up developing, especially with the new hero. But other than just D.Mon, since, as I said, I already did a whole video talking about her, what else is there to look forward to in Season 4? Well, we do know that we will, of course, be getting new cosmetics, which include new mythics, and Season 4 actually marks the cutoff of when we know what new mythics to expect. Back during Spotlight in February, they announced several new mythic skins and weapons that would be coming in 2026, and Season 4 marks the cutoff of that original list that they provided, with the last 2 skins we have yet to see being a mythic skin for Genji and a mythic weapon for Sojourn. Now, it is worth noting that every season actually features 2 mythic skins, with one of them launching in the mid-season, and so assuming that Genji and Sojourn are the ones we get for the start of the season on August 11th, we don't know what to expect for that mid-season mythic skin. This will be the first new mythic of 2026 that we don't actually know ahead of time what it's going to be. But there is some more info to delve into here. First and foremost, as I'm sure many of you are aware, there was a leaked Zarya mythic weapon, or possibly just the weapon of a full mythic Zarya skin, we don't know for sure, that was making the rounds not too long ago. The footage featuring this was accidentally leaked earlier in Season 3, and yes, as surprising as the idea of Zarya getting anything might seem, it does look like she will be getting some kind of either mythic skin or weapon, and it's possible that if this is in fact a skin, it could be the skin we get during the mid-season in Season 4. Not confirmed. We could be seeing this come out even later in the year in season 5 or 6, especially if it is only a mythic weapon and not just the weapon of a whole skin, but we will have to wait and see on that one. Beyond just the mythics, we can also expect a number of new shop skins and a battle pass that may or may not fit to some singular coherent theme. And in the shop specifically, it's likely we'll also be seeing more ultra skins, the highly controversial skin type which Blizzard debuted in season 3. That's basically just a more expensive legendary skin, serving as a halfway point between legendaries and mythics. Now, I am curious to see what Blizzard does with these going forward, even if I am not a fan of their premise, should we say. But I do expect us to see at least 1 or 2 more coming back in season 4, likely for popular heroes like Kiriko. But again, we'll have to wait and see what this entails. Just prepare yourselves. I'm sure we haven't seen the end of Ultra Skins yet. Moving on from cosmetics, though, now we move into the murkier aspects of Season 4, you could say. While as we're almost certainly going to be getting more than just the new hero and some skins, this is where we have less of a clear image when it comes to what exactly is going to be coming. Historically, in recent years, August has actually served as the mid-year patch for Overwatch, and as such has historically had pretty major content drops coming with it. That August season was when we saw the release of the initial and so far only PvE invasion missions. A year later, we saw the release of Clash. And a year after that, we saw Quick Play Stadium drop. Not Stadium itself, mind you, that actually first dropped the season before the August season in its respective year, but the Quick Play update was sort of the big full release of the mode in a way, which had a massive corresponding marketing campaign and push. And while, funnily enough, all 3 of these in their own respect have basically crashed and burned at this point, it does beg the question of whether Blizzard is once again going to utilize the August season as an opportunity to push out a major new content update. And while certainly anything is possible, I kind of think this year they're not going to do that. And the main reason for that is that all these things we've looked at in the past, Invasion, Clash, Stadium updates, Blizzard had pretty heavy marketing leading up to them being added. We knew about the PvE, the new game modes, all this stuff several months in advance of them actually dropping in their respective August seasons. But this year, we've had nothing of the sort. We had Spotlight back in February, which showed us a ton of the new content and all the new heroes that'd be coming for 2026, but nothing was specifically pointing at Season 4 in August as being a major mid-year refresh sort of season. At least not in the same way as we'd seen in years prior. And as such, I think it's very unlikely this year that we see a new game mode dropping, some massive new feature being added, anything of that sort for Season 4. Simply because if something that big was going to be coming in this season, we would have heard about it by now. However, that doesn't mean there isn't other interesting things that are going to still be happening. And one area of the game where we do know for certain that there's going to be something new coming is in the map department. Now, it's extremely unlikely that we get a new map, as we just got Neon Junction in Season 3, and Blizzard hates adding new maps as much as they hate adding Ball and Lucio skins. So yeah, I'm not expecting 2 seasons in a row to get a new map addition, but what Blizzard has confirmed for 2026 is that every single season will either have a brand new map or a map rework. We saw back in Season 2 them reworking Antarctic Peninsula, which had actually been removed from the game 2 seasons prior in leading up to that rework. And the season before that, Season 1, we saw the rework to Watchpoint Gibraltar, which actually tied into the story more so than anything, with Talon's assault on it as Overwatch's HQ. So going into Season 4, I think it's more than likely that we get a rework of an existing Overwatch map, and the question then is, which map is going to get reworked? It's also worth questioning whether this rework will be strictly a gameplay-focused one aiming to improve the gameplay of a given map, likely one of the less popular ones on the roster, or if it'll once again tie more into the story events going on, like what we saw on Gibraltar. Perhaps we see a partial reworking of Busan or Junkertown, as both of those locations are likely to tie very directly into the story we see unfolding in Season 4. Honestly, I don't know. This is an area which I'm actually kind of excited excited for, just because we know vaguely what's going to be happening in terms of a map getting reworked. We just don't know what map specifically. So hopefully they take the opportunity to rework one of those maps that doesn't tend to get voted for very much, just so long as they don't dare touch my precious Atlas. Atlas is a great map as is, and I will die on that hill. Or Flashpoint. But speaking of reworks, maps aren't the only thing to get reworked this year, as we're also expecting to get a number of hero reworks sometime in 2026. Now, again, we don't have a very clear image on what to expect in this regard. Blizzard has basically just said that reworks will be coming for heroes post Season 3, and Season 4 is certainly post Season 3, but, you know, that could also mean 5, 6, maybe even getting pushed into 2027, considering the history of hero reworks when it comes to Overwatch. But when it comes to heroes getting reworked, the three which Blizzard has specifically mentioned are Sombra, Roadhog, and Lifeweaver, in addition to potentially others, but these three are the ones that seem to be the highest priority. And I gotta say, all three of them are usual suspects at this point. Maybe not Lifeweaver quite as much as Roadhog and Sombra, but these first two are definitely heroes that Blizzard, just for the life of them, cannot seem to figure out what they want to do with them. Which is why, if I'm being totally honest, I think there's a very good chance that Blizzard just ultimately ends up scrapping the idea of reworking them at all. It would hardly be the first time we've seen this happen. Multiple heroes in relative recent Overwatch history, such as Moira, Reaper, have been talked about by Blizzard as being heroes that they looked into reworking before ultimately scrapping the idea of doing so and just leaving them as is. I could very easily see this ending up being the case again for either Sombra, Roadhog, Lifeweaver, or all three of them, because that just seems to be how Blizzard goes with these. It's also worth noting that with the more recent seeming exploration Blizzard is doing into potentially returning to a 6v6 format for the game, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually put reworks like this on hold until they settle on whether or not they actually want to go through with returning to a 6v6 format, since a massive format change like that would most certainly have knock-on effects for individual heroes, and as such it might not make sense to rework a hero like Roadhog specifically, only for the game to then shift to a format where there's regularly 2 tanks on a team, and said rework might just end up being a huge backward step. I don't know. There's a lot to speculate there. There's a lot of different directions and routes Blizzard could take with reworking heroes specifically. And with us having as little information on the reworks and the track record that they have for this sort of thing, I don't know. More than anything else, I think this is a wait and see category. We can certainly hope and speculate about how they're going to change these heroes to make them less problematic, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we don't even see any of these reworks end up going through. And the last major thing to talk about now when it comes to Season 4 is BlizzCon. Now, BlizzCon is not specific to Overwatch. It is obviously the entirety of Blizzard, but Overwatch most certainly will be featured as a part of it. And in 2026, BlizzCon is indeed returning in the middle of Season 4, specifically being the weekend of September 11th, so about a month into the season. And I think it's safe to say we're going to see some pretty major Overwatch announcements getting dropped during this. For one thing, it's worth noting that the original 2026 roadmap we got in February as part of Spotlight specifically cut off at Season 4, which, not so coincidentally, I would say, is when we get BlizzCon. I think Blizzard's idea back then is that they're only going to give us a roadmap of what to get up until BlizzCon, because BlizzCon is then when we're going to get the rest of the roadmap for 2026 and likely going a bit into 2027 as well. The remaining 2 heroes after Demon, I think, have an extremely high chance of getting revealed at BlizzCon, with the first of the 2 maybe even being playable as a sort of show floor exclusive like they've done with heroes in the past. This is likely where we're also going to get a new look at the next upcoming map, which again, I don't think is going to be in Season 4, but will likely be sometime after it, along with who knows what other content. We do know that there will be an exclusive Mei skin and Ana weapon available for ticket holders as part of their, virtual goodies they always give away to people who actually spend money to go to it. But other than that, we don't know quite yet what's going to be dropping when it comes to BlizzCon. Again, the safe safe bet is just a roadmap for the rest of 2026 and look at the next couple upcoming heroes. But other than that, I am very curious to see what BlizzCon has in store for old Overwatch. Maybe, fingers crossed, super wishful thinking, we'll be getting a new animated short. Considering that D.Mon is by far a fan favorite hero, maybe we even see another animated short featuring Mecha Squad. That's what I got my fingers crossed for, but honestly, any animated short would be a welcome feature at this event. Will it happen? I don't know. Might be a little too optimistic on my part, but I am certainly hoping that we see something along that line, as BlizzCon is a big event, and it's the first BlizzCon we're getting, mind you, in 3 years. So forgive me for being a little wishful this time around. Wrapping up this video though, there will also be the usual sort of little events happening in Season 4. Competitive drives will be making a return toward the end of the season. Junkrat's loot hunt will be happening. We'll probably get some sort of story associated event in the first few weeks of the season as well, to give us some themed cosmetics for D.Mon and the overall mecha base, Junkertown, Talon stuff that's happening. Things like that, things to grind when the season first kicks off leading up to BlizzCon. But otherwise, that is all the information we have so far for Season 4 of Overwatch in 2026. Definitely let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments down below. Are you excited to get to play D.Mon? Are you excited for whatever new map rework is coming? Or maybe you just want to see what gets announced at BlizzCon. As always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, hit up that bell icon, follow me on X, and join my Discord server to hang out and never miss any future Overwatch news, streams, and other content. Be sure to check out my full D.Mon video I did if you haven't already to see all the juicy details pertaining to our new upcoming mecha hero. And otherwise, this is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.